Hello and welcome to the Everything Delivery podcast. This episode is a digital pulse for the week ending 9th of June. If you're new here, Digital Pulse is our fortnightly newscast where we highlight some of the interesting things that have happened recently in the tech sector. This episode is sponsored by Nearform. Nearform have over 10 years experience in remote delivery, empowering clients to succeed in a digital world through application modernization, data, design, DevOps, and product. I'm Dan Close, and I'm here as ever with my co-host Luca Lanciani. So Luca, what are we going to talk about today?
Hey Dan, everyone. So this week we're gonna talk about three main topics. We're gonna talk about cost, and we're gonna see what cost means in this case. We're gonna talk about cloud or not cloud, maybe, and then we're gonna talk about data. And data is going to be mostly on you, Dan. You ready?
Let's do it.
Let's go. As you can see, for this episode, we have a different format. If you're watching this on YouTube, right, we have our browser open on our right, and you can follow up with us. But we're going to try to explain what we're looking at so you can follow even if you're listening to this in audio format. We start from the Everything Delivery website, something that if you don't know, you want to go visit, you will find all the links to our channels, to our socials, right? And so you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts for now. We're going to distribute probably on more platforms soon. But the first thing that we're going to talk about instead is cost, as we say. So let me switch back to the cost source. Let me close the Everything Delivery one. And we start from a tweet. You remember this tweet, Dan?
Everything starts from a tweet.
Right. So for the people that are listening, this is a tweet about Coinbase, or at least people were guessing that there was Coinbase. They had a $65 million Datadog bill per its Q1 earning call, right? So what has happened here? There was an earning call, right? Because Datadog has to have those. And during the call, someone...
A very eagle-eyed analyst got in there and said, hey, what's this?
So there was these 65 millions, not recurring, right? That weren't going to happen again, apparently. And there was something like a large, it's highlighted there, right? There was a crypto company, right? So when someone see those two things, put two and two together, and that's why there is Coinbase question mark.
Yeah, I think at this point we're pretty much guaranteed, right, that it's yes, still question mark.
No, apparently we will see in one of the next tabs that was somehow confirmed from internal sources that was Coinbase. And by the way, this is something that we discussed or we hinted to in our previous episode of Everything Delivery. So if you want to go listen to that, we discussed the value of OpenTelemetry, and one of the values actually switching. And we'll see that there is something in here about switching, right? So if we move on from there, you will see that this story was actually covered by the news stack, right? All the links are going to be on the show notes. So if you're listening to this, you're going to find all of this in the show notes of the episode. So go there and check what we're looking at, where we removed the question mark. And here they're actually saying Datadog 65 million bill and why developers should care. Again, interesting article by the news stack where they dig in a little bit deeper into those things, right? And they say the observability builds can surprise companies. So here you go.
Wow, yeah, that comes as a shock, right?
So we say that in the past episode, one developer may change something in the code that ships more metrics or send more traces, or you may have a spike on traffic, and there you go, your bill is gonna skyrocket, right? Oh, and by the way, this is something we're gonna talk about again on the FinOps episode that is coming out in a week or so, I believe.
That's the plan.
So it's interesting because the title say and why developers should care, right?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? Is we the developers are inevitably going to have a finger pointed at us, right? If things go south, it's always the developers that have goofed up.
Yep. So it's interesting that they say and developers may be on the hook for changing code if builds grow too large. Do you really?
Yeah, maybe. I love the idea that it's a maybe. I think it's guaranteed that you're going to get a finger
but
pointed.
it's interesting, right?
I like
it's interesting because is it really the developer responsibility? Is it a shared responsibility?
I think we said this last time, right? It's a shared responsibility. It has to be a shared responsibility. Otherwise, your platform probably isn't going to be doing what you need it to do, right?
So isn't FinOps So can we extend the idea of FinOps about managing costs? Because we know that FinOps is focused around the cloud cost, right?
Mm.
But probably we want to talk about managing costs more in general, not just the cloud bills, right?
Yeah, this is one of the things that's quite fascinating, especially, and this is going to tie to the thing we're going to talk about next, right? Is as people have moved to the cloud, FinOps has really kind of turned into this thing. But now there seems to be some sort of anti-cloud sentiment, right? And so people are starting to run with hybrid models. What happens to FinOps there? What happens to observability there? How do these things all tie together? And then just to get into in front of the next one is it actually just about saving money, or is there more to it than that? But we can come back to that later.
So this article in general goes into what has happened, right? Why did it happen? And in general, if you look around, the story goes a little bit like this, right? Coinbase was growing a lot. We all know about the bubble that has happened around cryptocurrency and so on, right? So they were growing so much that they stopped caring about the cost of what they were building. Somehow they were like, okay, let's push out more value, and we have enough money to cover every possible spend that's gonna come in, right? That is something that we touched on in the previous episode again, right? Of everything delivered. We said if you have enough money, maybe 65 million is not that worrying for you.
Well, this is the thing, and I think this gets to the next link, right? Is that if your profit margins are so huge that number kind of makes the other numbers look trivial, it really doesn't matter, right? Because
as long as you're aware, right? It doesn't mean that you have to just ignore the thing and keep spending money, right?
This is absolutely true. But I think at this particular point, as I recall, a lot of the feedback from Coinbase was, yes, we knew that this was a problem, or we knew this was happening. Like, we weren't unaware of it. It was just things were going so well. This bill was by no means a problem.
Now, let's go into the next phase, right? The next part is, I don't know if you know this, but there is pragmatic engineers that is, I don't want to butcher his name, right? But is Garrett Kelly Oros. Again, I probably butcher your name, I'm sorry about that. And apparently, he was the first one to confirm that that Coinbase, was actually the company, right? Spoke with some Coinbase people, and he got the confirmation that there was the company impacted. And he goes into explaining what has happened. He described the earning call and the fact that someone dig into those things. Maybe for some of us that wasn't so apparent, but some analysts actually, caught the information.
This is what they get paid to do, right?
Yes. And
they sit there, they listen, and then they just go at it and start pulling things to pieces.
And it's amazing because he asked the question during the call, right? And the answer was interesting. Go and check it out, right? Go and check it out. This article again is going to be in the show note. And then around here, I don't remember where in this page, but there is the information that even if they were aware, right now they're actually moving, and they're moving to, I believe, Grafana. There you go. So for observability, I'm gonna read this out for the people that are listening. For observability, Coinbase spun up a dedicated team with the goal of moving off Datadog and onto Grafana, Prometheus, ClickHouse stack. A quick summary of this technology is okay, and it goes on describing what Grafana, Prometheus, and ClickHouse is, right? But again, do you remember when we discussed this thing, reliability of moving?
Yeah, it's kind of useful, right?
It was exactly in the last episode of Everything Delivery when we discussed OpenTelemetry. What is one of the business value of OpenTelemetry? Being able to move from one place to another.
Vendor lock-ins, you don't want vendor lock-in.
Okay, so let's stop talking about this for a moment, right? Again, cost is a problem. There was this incident, and we all know how our field is gonna do when there are incidents like this, right? It's gonna point a finger, say, look at that, right? That's why you shouldn't do this. Again, it depends. And let's move into something very, very similar that happened in our area, that cloud, or maybe not cloud.
To cloud or not to cloud? That is the question.
Do you wanna describe the article that we're looking at right now?
Well, this is DHH, right? The man who's been incredibly vocal about the cost of the cloud and how things haven't been as they promised. And so he has on several occasions now talked about the intent to move off the cloud because of these ridiculous bills, and that they can save a vast amount of money by doing so. So this is his, wouldn't say brain dump, but it's just the experience that they're going through, right? So this is their plan for taking their cloud bill, slicing and dicing it. I don't know how much they say they're going to save, though, right?
I don't remember the exact number, but they already started. The numbers are here, right? Again, link in the show notes. Go check it out. But this is something that was released October 19th last year, so 2022. This is when it all started, right? With we all know that it's gonna the HH is gonna release these very thought-provoking blog posts, right? Where even the title is "Why We're Leaving the Cloud."
But it's not like, okay, so the blog post goes out, but there's still plenty of activity on Twitter. Of course, he's quite good at driving a discussion, let's say, or stoking the fire, if you want to be less charitable. And so off the back of this, then, things have started to change, right? So people are talking more about, can we get off the cloud? What's the value of microservices? What's the value of serverless? And how does this tie it all together? And so Amazon kind of got involved.
Yeah, we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there, right? But I wanted to point out that David kept hitting the ball, and he released not far from the previous blog post on February 27th, another blog post that is "Don't Be Fooled by Serverless," where he created another discussion in the industry, and it was all about serverless is not the dreamland, right? The promised dreamland that is sold. And again, it goes on and explains that it's not for everyone. To be honest, this blog post, if you really read through it, is not saying that it's terrible, right? It says that there is maybe one moment when you can use serverless, but serverless is not for everyone, and you need to be careful when you use it.
He's not alone in this, right? So Simon Wardley said pretty similar things too, right? It's a great place to start and iterate quickly. But yeah, it's like, what are the legs on this thing?
Yeah, but at the same time, sometime he released some message like the job of the cloud is make you spend more, right? It's not make you spend less. So this plays in their favor. So it's an interesting perspective, right?
It's trade-offs, right? You get moving quickly at an increased cost, but the thing that people rarely do is stop and look at where they are and how they should refactor.
Yeah.
You know, it's just next feature, next release. Let's just keep on tracking on the same roads.
Yeah, but even phrases like the cloud is primarily for companies that are being swings in use, like Amazon's original AWS keys, right? So it's like what he's saying is that if you're a company that has to scale fast and then move down again, by the way, that is exactly why AWS was created. If we remember that, it was created because of the what is called the Amazon
things like Black Friday.
Sorry, yes, that's the one. Black Fridays is actually here in the next line, right? When you have the Black Friday and they had, I believe something like 50% of the sales in a year. I don't remember the exact number, right? But it was huge. It was when Amazon was getting a lot of traffic, and then that's why they needed to scale, and they've seen that they were scaling fine. So what he's saying is that is when you want to use the cloud. If you don't have that, if you don't have a lot of change of traffic, you don't need that. And I don't completely agree with that. The cloud gives you speed, right? It gives you speed for innovation, so it gives you a lot of flexibility. So it's not just for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, it depends. But then, again, few months later, May 4th, and boom, another hit from David on even Amazon can make sense of serverless or microservices.
Yeah, now is this the one referring this is post the Amazon blog post, right? Where they talk about the movement. Basically, things were costing a lot of money. They weren't working particularly well, so they did a refactor.
Oh, yeah.
And so is what they had serverless? Is it microservices? Have they moved to a monolith or a macrolith? Have they moved to something else? And so this post is after that, right? And he's basically pointing finger and kind of saying, does anyone actually really get what serverless is or what microservices are and what's really the difference? Where does it begin? Where does it end?
I have to be honest, right? Even Amazon did a great job at creating a clickbaity article where he was saving a staggering 90% on operational costs and simplify the system too.
Was that it? Just 90%?
90%. There you go. See? With a couple of exclamation marks. That's what the article says. And he goes through describing what it is, right? And it's And it's the eternal dilemma between microservices and monolith and what is the right approach. And I'm sorry, but I have to say it again, right? It depends. It depends on many, many things. The stage of the life you're in, right? Where is your company? What type of company you're operating with? What type of clients? How flexible your solution needs to be. It's all about trade-offs, right?
I couldn't agree more.
And some part of your system may be a monolith, some part of your system may be developed on microservices. We all agree that if you go on microservices, you may have more operational costs. You may have to have a better system, integration system, a better deployment system, right? Monolith is easier to manage somehow.
It's a simpler thing to handle,
Yes.
isn't it, right? I mean, many small moving pieces that you need to keep a track of and understand relationships, whereas, that one big thing you deploy.
And that moves into the actual article from Prime Video, right? From Amazon Prime Video, where they discuss scaling up the Prime Video audio-video monitoring service and reducing cost by 90%. Again, this was March 22nd. We're going to leave a link in the note. There is not much to discuss in here except that what DHH said is a reading of the article. What they've done is a little bit more complicated than what we just say, right? From microservices to monolith. They just move one component, right? Just one component.
There was certainly a lot of fuss made about this, possibly more than was really justified based on the actual content of the article.
And again, they're not reducing the old Prime Video platform cost of 90%. They're reducing the audio video monitoring service cost of 90%. I have no idea, maybe it's in the article, I don't remember this. I have no idea how much that impacts the whole cost of the overall system. And again, that's what is interesting, right? They created a very clickbaity article. So maybe it's, I don't know, 1% of the overall cost, and you reduce that 1% by 90%. That, I mean, it's still great because I don't know how much this was costing. It's probably a lot. It's audio video monitoring, right? But again, we don't know. Go and check it out because this is the article. So what?
I mean, it's not going to go away, right? It's going to continue to be talked about.
And I'm sure that soon we're going to see an article that goes in the opposite direction, splitting a monolith into microservices and increase velocity. So if you go and search the internet, you're going to find both sides, right? Again, takeaway, yes, you may want to consider moving off the cloud. It may be a valuable option for you, right? I don't see anything wrong with that. Not everyone has to be in the cloud. You may consider going monolith, maybe at the start of your company, or maybe, maybe because it's simpler, you don't have enough people, right? Or maybe if you have too many teams, you may decide to go microservices and create a little bit of decoupling between those and have independent release cycles and so on, right?
I know. Also, right, you've got no DevOps team.
Yeah.
Go serverless.
Go serverless. Yeah. Why not? Go. You know what I mean? Heroku was a great example of this, right? Ignore all the complexity. You don't need all the building blocks that are in AWS. You don't need all the AWS services. You just need a simple system. Actually, there is a friend of ours that is raising something like that. Let's name the company. Platformatic is building something like that. Shout out to Matteo.
Heard of that? Yeah, Matteo something. Yeah. Kalina guy. Yeah. He's done a few things, hasn't he?
Look at that. You know what? Let's give him some space because why not?
They just raised a decent amount of money too. Right?
Yeah, they released that, right? So look at platformatic.dev, the fast backend development platform. Something like this, right? You don't have to build everything. If you're in a stage where you don't have the team, you don't have the capabilities to do this, why not? Okay.
Take away the complexity.
Last but not least, data.
Indeed. Yeah, I'm going to start with cute red pandas because this is a fun place to be. So anyone and everyone who's worked in the data space will be aware of this wonderful thing called Kafka, Apache Kafka. And it's a distributed log store, and I would say literally everyone uses it. Whenever anyone talks about event sourcing, things like this, typically what they're talking about is Kafka. It has so the folks that created Kafka while they were at LinkedIn left and created a company called Confluent, and this is very, very widely used paid platform for using Kafka, and it's wonderful. I think it's awesome. That said, Kafka is generally a bit of a beast. So, as an alternative, there's this wonderful thing, as you see on your screen now, it's called Red Panda. Now, Red Panda is like Kafka, except that it's not written in Java, which is always a win. And rather than having many different components you have to deploy, it is a single binary that you deploy. Now, given that it's a competitor to Apache Kafka, Confluent, they have been very aggressive in a good way of creating benchmarks to demonstrate their capability to build a platform that's incredibly fast and that it's also reliable. So there's been an ongoing kind of discussion around whether to use fsync or not to fsync, and by default Kafka does not fsync, whereas Red Pandas does. So in theory, your data is more reliably stored in Red Panda than it is in Confluent. Now, with all the benchmarking going on, clearly each side has a different take on benchmarks. Now, the Confluent crew have released, or are in the process of releasing, a 6-part series on how Confluent's Kafka is faster and better than the alternatives. Now, in response to this, and I really, really like this, so Alexander Gallego, who's the founder and CEO at Red Panda, has turned around and stated on LinkedIn that he will cut your costs, your Confluent bill, by 50%, or he will give you his own money. So this guy is so convinced that his product is better, faster, reliable, and cheaper that that this is his promise. And I just think it's a wonderful place to be. I have not used Red Panda. It's something I'm personally very interested in. It provides a whole bunch of different ways of solving the same sort of problems that Confluent does. As I say, it's smaller, so it can potentially save you costs. So the expectation here is something like 6 times the cost, or less than 6 times the cost, and it's 10 times faster.
Okay, so message to the listeners is that if you're using Kafka, you may want to consider Red Panda as an alternative. And we're going to leave you the link of the LinkedIn post from Alexander, the founder. So if it doesn't work, you can get money back, right?
Indeed. But it's absolutely, yeah, it's cost this guy money. It's smaller, faster, better. It's a smaller footprint, and it has an API that identically matches Kafka's, right? So if you're already using Kafka, you could potentially slot it in, as you say. But if you're at the start of your journey and you're looking to benchmark an event sourcing tool or a distributed log, you may want to check out Red Pandas. It could save you a decent amount of money in the long run.
And get faster.
And if your developers if your developers are already familiar with Kafka, it shouldn't be too much of a stretch to move.
Interesting.
Totally worth checking out.
Next up, something a little bit more, let's say, theoretical, right?
Yeah. Well, this is again on the saving money side of things, as well as how awesome open source is, as we discussed last time out with OpenTelemetry.
Do you want to read out what we're talking about for the people that are listening?
I'm going to. Right. So what we're a little bit late on this one, but Mosaic ML, who one of the groups producing large language models, very, very actively producing large language models, have announced the MPT-7B models. Now, these are Mosaic pre-trained transformers, and they're trained on 1 trillion tokens of text and code. The big kind of exciting reveal here is that it's available for commercial use, right? So you now have some alternatives to leveraging OpenAI and whatever else, right? And you can integrate this into your products if it's available for commercial use. I say that it's available for commercial use. This applies to the story writer and the instruct models, but the chat component at the moment is still only non-commercial. But still, having that base model, the story writer and instruct, is a great way for a company to start getting into the LLM space, potentially having a different route in, potentially saving some money too.
Okay, so let's say this. I have a product, right? And I want to implement some of the ML functionality into the product. LLM functionality into the product. Can I use this tool? That's what you're saying, right? You can. This is an open source tool that I can embed into my product and use it for commercial.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can use it for your commercial purposes. Yeah. And I mean, the super wonderful thing about this is, so that's great, but also it only costs them something like $200 to actually go off and build this set of models as
200,
well,
200K,
which is pretty.
I think that's
200K,
200K.
sorry. Yes.
It would be amazing if it was $200.
$200. Yeah, no, I'm thinking about the next best thing actually, which is
okay.
Yeah.
So again, if you have a team that is focusing on LLM, you may want to send them this link and see if they don't know this already, because possibly they know this already. This was released, at least the article we're looking at, it was May 5th, right? The 5th of May.
Yeah.
Check this out on the show notes and send it to the team that is taking care of the LLM part, and maybe they're going to discover something new. Again, open source, saving cost, embed into your system, and available for commercial use. Next up, even more theoretical.
Now here we are getting down to the $200 kind of space. Right, so this is about QLoRa. So training these models is horrifically expensive. As you say, like $200,000 for the Mosaic models. People are, so academics and the open source community is really pushing on what's happening with these large language models. Now, QLoRa is a paper, so it's a low rank adapter, and it's an approach to reduce the memory usage for when you're fine tuning models. So if you happen to be one of these people who happens to have a 48 gigabyte graphics card sitting down the back of your sofa, just hanging around, you can potentially go about using those kind of resources to go and build 65 billion parameter models, which is pretty awesome. Now, the performance is not going to be super wonderful, but obviously these steps that we're seeing, this is going to make this more and more accessible to more and more people, which means innovation is just going to happen faster and faster. And I mean, it's terrifying, and it is also wonderful. And I'm sure since, I checked Hacker News this morning, a whole bunch more of these papers has been published, and it's now even cheaper than it was. This field is not going anywhere. It's going to become more accessible.
So let me
easier,
help
cheaper.
You, right? Who's this for? What type of company should look at this?
I think anyone who is even remotely exploring the use of generative AI in their products needs to be aware of the changes that are happening in the market, because it's changing so rapidly. You just don't want to be left behind. Like, it's a full-time job keeping up with this stuff.
So what we're saying is that follow Digital Pulse, and we're going to keep you up to date. That's what we're saying, right?
We are going to try. We might even have to start a third podcast to summarize papers.
Oh my, yeah. Okay, so next up again, it's one big company, because right now everyone is working on AI, right? One big company that is integrating AI into their product. Who we're talking about?
What a wonderful way to segue into GitLab. And so this is the release of GitLab 16, right?
I think it's 16, yeah. I don't remember the exact number. I think it's in the page somewhere. But yeah, the new release of GitLab is including AI, right? And it's obviously they changed their headline to be the AI-powered DevSecOps platform. It's interesting.
I think if you can get a few more buzzwords in there, they could have tried harder, right?
But I get it, right? I'm not blaming them. I get it. This is the game, and you have to play it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what they're saying is that the next release, I think it's 16. You're right? It's gonna have AI-powered functionalities. Now, how much of that is AI? We can discuss that. Again, AI is the buzzword. But I read through some of those, and they're quite interesting to me. So they have, again, if you scroll down on the page, we're going to leave the link in the show note. Let's repeat these, right? So the feature has something like the code suggestions, suggested reviewers, value stream forecasting, summarize issue comments, summarize proposed merge request changes, explain this vulnerability, summarize merge request reviews, generate tests in merge requests. That's interesting, right? GitLab chat. I want to understand what GitLab chat is about and explain this code.
Well, I'm assuming that generating tests in merge requests is for people like me who just don't do tests, right? I mean, we don't do tests in data.
Like you, right?
Yeah, just like no tests.
There was actually an interesting other podcast that is the DevOps Paradox podcast. Again, go listen to them if you don't. Where there was Victor saying that I don't think there is anyone that loves writing tests. You write it because you have to write it. Some actually, maybe I disagree with that. I'm pretty sure there is someone that loves writing tests, like everything in this world, right? Someone is gonna love doing that, right? They must love doing that. But in general, all that function is a little bit of. It's gonna give you a little bit of a boost. Let's say this, right? Maybe they're not gonna solve all your problems, but a boost is gonna be there.
And this is the thing. I think for experienced developers, this kind of stuff can be super useful. The thing that does scare me a little bit, now there's a chap who creates a Python product for doing data analysis, and he published something, again, a series of blog posts, which we can link to in the show notes, benchmarking something. And he used OpenAI stuff to help him do the benchmarking. Now, there was a mistake in there which he didn't catch until later, and it led his benchmark initially was a bit kind of out of whack. Now, he's incredible, and so he managed to catch it, but the fact that he missed it in the first place, I think he beats himself up for it a bit. In the wrong hands, this kind of stuff can and is going to do horrible things. That said, we are working on some of these things, which hopefully at some point we can maybe talk about too. Be quite interesting.
So the point is, use them because they're going to definitely boost your productivity, but be aware that we are in a stage where the output of those systems may not be as good as you think it is, right?
Yep.
So don't just blindly accept whatever comes out of those. You're going to have to reread it. You're going to have to peer review, right, what those systems are outputting. Again, this is a general take. It's not on GitLab, right? We haven't seen what GitLab produces. It's a general take on LLM. It's a general take on general AI. And I'm sorry, I'm hard coding the AI. If you're not watching the episode, you don't see this. The AI products that are coming out. We are in a stage where you cannot trust the output. Okay. And then the last thing is, again, the 16, and we can confirm that it was 16. There is going to be on the 22nd of June the actual event, right, where they're going to introduce GitLab 16. Again, we're going to leave this link in the show notes. If you want to register for this event, they're going to probably present it, and it's going to be the first time that we actually have there, and judge at that point, right? Honestly, judge what they produce, because who knows? Maybe they are refining the model so much.
I'm sure it'll be wonderful.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be something interesting to play with. I can tell you that, right? I'm having a lot of fun with ChatGPT. I had a lot of fun with all these new things that are coming out. We are also, as you say, right? We're playing with those things ourselves. We're playing with those things in near form, and it's been a lot of fun for all the different people involved. And with these, we close this episode of Digital Pulse. Thanks a lot for listening. Just to recap, we talked about cost, and in this case was about the bill that Coinbase got from Datadog. It was 65 million. Then we went into discussing clouds with DHH shooting at the cloud, and the serverless movement, right, is about moving off the cloud and drop serverless in favor of monolith. All helped by an article from AWS or for Prime Video, saying that they saved 90% the cost moving from monolith to from serverless or from microservices to monolith. And then we went into discussing data.
Yep, so we talked about Red Pandas and how it provides a wonderful, faster and potentially cheaper solution to your Apache Kafka or Confluent Kafka uses. And then a little bit about LLMs and how the price is dropping. They are becoming more available, and soon you'll be able to build one and run one yourself, potentially. We then finished up with GitLab.
Okay, so release 16 of GitLab is going to be announced in June 22nd. They're introducing the AI system that is going to help you with different tasks, from proposing reviewers for your PRs to doing a recap of your issues to helping you in the chat and whatnot, right? So again, all the links in the show note. Thanks a lot for listening, and we're gonna see you in the next episode of Everything Delivery or Digital Pulse.
Awesome.
See you next time. Bye.